Detroit and Ohio Railway was a railway formed in 1920 out of a merger between two companies. We now have tracks from Detroit to the Virginian Railway interchange. We also have a second line that is parallel that we got in the merger. We also have a branch line out to the Per Hunt and Lake Erie interchange. The New York Central runs up to Chicago, and we interchange with it in a few places. The lush farmland around the D&O stomping grounds are very beautiful, along with an abandoned canal, which we replaced. The railroad is on the move. We have big research facilities and in the roundhouse. The roundhouse is not electrified, so in the early morning we will follow a freight train of empty gondolas going to the interchange with the NYC. This section is electrified. The roundhouse is not electrified, however, so this 060 switcher will have to take the engines out of it and put it on the electric line. We have a very long turntable here, meant to fit the 060 and our longest electric. These new electrics just came from General Electric and the Boston and Maine Railway. We bought them after a few months of service on the B&M, and then employed them on our lines hauling coal, iron ore, and auto trains from Detroit. Our main customer is a auto and power manufacturer in South Detroit. This is one of the connections with the New York Central Railway. In South Detroit, the New York Central crosses over us on our two main lines. Coming out of the industrial complex, the line splits and crosses over the NYC in two places, and the canal in between, thus creating a very awkward gradient going uphill. The tower that controls the crossover is controlled by the New York Central Railway. Thus, we do not have proper rights on the crossover. In Detroit, it is a very busy area. Many people come from around the area to see our nice electrics. We keep them in tip-top order. We still use steam on some of our streamlined passenger trains in this area, but we are soon to be replacing them with electric locomotives. We are hoping by 1935 we get the entire system electrified. We have already started proposals on which routes would get the electrification and which ones would not. The main line to the Virginian Railway interchange is most likely the only one that will. These cars are loaded and will be dumped at the coal dump in the industrial complex. We have invested in many modern ways of doing things, including the coal dumper. The bottom of these gondolas swing open, and thus the coal dumps right into a hopper, which puts the coal into the power plant. The power generated here goes into our electric wires and fuels part of Detroit and the industrial complex. This is innovation in action. As the train rolls over, it watches the coal goes right through the bottom of the gondola. Detroit and Ohio has invested many large amounts of money into research projects. DNO is also the leader in research programs. We love learning new things about our equipment, rolling stock, and ways of doing things. That is quite amazing. The coal just falls right out the bottom of the gondola. This is one of many innovations. This is probably one of the proudest things we've ever done. It used to be we had to unload it by hand, and the crews here at the power plant were getting very sick of it. So we answered their letters and calls, and we eventually installed these on any gondolas that are owned by the power plant. Off-site on the Virginian Railway, we own many power plants alongside with the power company. The Virginian Railway picks these cars up, drop them off at the interchange in southern Ohio, and then they come up here. This is a very short train compared to usual coal trains on this line. And notice the Virginian caboose. All cabooses on this line stay on the train until getting dropped back off, as the loop here in the power plant ensures the trains go right back to where they started. As the caboose passes over the hopper, the engineer can increase speed. Another new invention is a marker beside the track. An arm sticks out from the locomotive. When it hits this marker, the throttle goes up. This is an automatic throttling system that just this locomotive has. It is a test feature and is turning out to be quite successful. In the cab of the locomotive, you can see that the train starts picking up speed, but slowly. As even though this is a short train, these former Boston Maine electric locomotives have slow acceleration. At the New York Central crossover, our train has been stopped. The 20th Century Limited, New York Central's premier passenger train, is passing through. This is a common sight on the DNO. The Century usually passes our trains every day. Now you may see this empty gondola train and may think, what else does the DNO carry? We carry iron ore, auto materials, and of course coal. Now this is later in the day at another canal interchange in a small town. This right here is a bridge. The canal was built in the mid-1800s, and when the DNO built their tracks, they built it right beside. Now, the modern marvel of engineering was shut down due to the DNO replacing it. In Toledo, we partially own a massive terminal with the New York Central. Here's the Century pulling into Toledo, Ohio. After a few minutes, they blow the whistle and the bell, and they depart, while our train passes them. On this line alone, the number of freight trains a day are about 10. We are hoping to double that number by the year 1935. Here we see our train and the Century pacing each other. At our final stop, we see a D&O freight train passing by while the Century goes off to the side. Detroit and Ohio also hosts a big and powerful maintenance team. We also do a lot of research. In these shops, we have invested over $1 million in research, rehabilitation, and new equipment. These shops rival some of the greatest railway shops in America, including the Pennsylvania Railroad Altoona shop.